everyone, welcome to the Commercial Dance Intensive Seminar, Heels, info session for all commercial dance needs. So this seminar is about dancing in heels and having the right footwear for class, auditions, and different circumstances on film, different circumstances live performing on stage, and things like that. This is a compilation of what we've learned from our heels instructors as well as our theater and Broadway and commercial faculty. So this is from us to you, the Commercial Dance Intensive. We always want to educate everyone so that they're safe and they can train and get ready to work, right? I'm going to take you through a couple, well, very many pairs of shoes that I own, the reasons why they work, the reasons why they don't work, and what situations would be appropriate for me to use them for. So, when someone says I dance in heels, what do we think of first? We think of a stiletto, right? We think of a pump. We think of something probably pointy. We might think of it with a straight heel. I have to say this is my absolute favorite pair that I own. It was bedazzled special for a show, and it has my name in it. Makes me very happy. This kind of shoe is great to have to train in. And there's a lot of different reasons why. I'll talk about that in a moment, but let me give you a brief overview of different situations and the kind of shoe that you would need, right? So if I was taking a heels class, I would want to do it in a stiletto. If I had a commercial call, I would want to attend in a stiletto. I would also bring other options in my dance bag as well as backups, because you never know what kind of floor you're going to have. Next would be a theater call, right? So I would have my LaDuca shoe, my character shoe. I have a 3-inch heel because I'm 5'2". They come in a lot of different heights, but you want to make sure that the height is right for you. I would recommend to never go below 2 inches because then it looks like a kitten heel and it looks very, very young. Then I would have a LaDuca boot. That is for a theater call as well. This is a really great rehearsal shoe because it has a lot of ankle support. We'll talk more about LaDucas in a moment. Then if you have a partnering call, anything with Latin involved in the show or in the style or the music or the artist, I would recommend having a salsa shoe, a Latin open-toe dance shoe. We're going to talk more about this shoe as well, but in general, right? It's going to be one of these three. It'll either be a stiletto, a salsa shoe, a Latin shoe, ballroom as well, or a theater dancing character heel. So how do you know what kind of shoe you're going to need? Say, for example, it's an audition and it says, okay, we'll be dancing in heels. If it's for an artist, you're most likely going to be using a pump. You can use a lot of different types of pumps, and we'll go through different ones as well. If it is for a Latin style show or a partnering heavy show, or if the music is heavily influenced in the ballroom world or the Latin world, you're going to want to have a Latin shoe. If it's anything musical theater that is not specified in one of these two categories, you want to have a LaDuca, okay? This shoe is the gold star. You know that you are auditioning for professional theater jobs shoe. If you show up to a commercial call in a LaDuca, they are not going to assume that you can dance in these. So make sure that we're practicing in all three if you are pursuing all three. Great. So now that we have that overview of those three options, let's talk about things to consider when you're trying to buy a pair of commercial heels. Yeah? It's very important that commercial heels are right for you and that they can support your weight in different placements. Yeah? I have a system when buying commercial shoes because these are street shoes. Yeah? They're not made for dancing. These shoes are made for dancing. They're made by people who know dance. You may think that a commercial shoe looks right, looks like what you see in the Beyonce videos, looks like what you've seen on the VMAs, but you don't know for sure that it's going to be right for you. So there are a couple of things that through working at the Commercial Dance Intensive we have discovered and we would like to share with our audience. So the most important thing about your commercial heel is that it is supportive. Okay, my test for support is grabbing the front of the shoe, the shank, yeah, and grabbing the heel. And if it moves when I pull apart, then it's a no, yeah? I'm gonna show you an example of that. Really fabulous shoes, super great, checks boxes in a lot of different ways. But when I pull, I'm gonna get closer to you, the heel moves away from the shank. So that means if my weight goes back, then the heel is going to go inward and I might fall, I might break it. If I'm going full out with feeling and I'm doing back bends and I'm doing all this crazy weight shifting and I accidentally go back towards my pump, the shoe is not strong enough to support me. So I'm not going to use this kind of shoe for class. Number 2, very important in training, is that the heel comes directly down from the middle of your heel, yeah? So this pump part here is not angling outward, it's not angling inward. There are a couple of kinds of shoes that they look really great because they have this cool shape to the back of it. It's not gonna support your body. So if you think about the skeleton, right, we're straight up and down from head to our heels. Your heels, even though your weight is in the balls of your feet, your heel is an extension of the stacking of your spine. So if you want to be ergonomic, if you want to be supportive in your bone structure, you're gonna want this to come straight down the back. Does that make sense? So, number 1 on the checklist, support. If I pull apart from the heel and the shank, does anything move? If it does, toss it to wear out in the club. Don't wear it for dance class. Number 2, the pump comes straight down from the heel. That's important. Number 3, there is no build on the bottom, okay? Build on the bottom of a shoe, this is gonna be very dramatic, is this, yeah? If there's build on the bottom of the shoe, I can't feel the floor, yeah? If I'm here, just like in a character shoe, I know where the floor is and I can feel my connection. Now, it's not flexible per se like a character shoe, yeah? In a LaDuca, oh my goodness, you can feel the floor so well. But in a pump, it is supposed to be one solid unit. It's not, you're not supposed to be able to move it when you point your foot, right? It's important that you can feel your connection to the floor because it'll help you be grounded. Very important in commercial heels dancing, especially if you have to travel. If you're performing on a large stage, you're performing in a great big studio for some film shoot, you're gonna wanna be able to truck it and move, move, move. And you can't do that in something with a build, okay? That doesn't mean that you're not gonna be asked to dance in these sometimes. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Back over to our checklist, okay? Our third point on the checklist was that there's not a build. That's a build, not a build on the bottom, okay? Those are the top 3 things, all right? The next few parts of shoes that I'm going to talk about are going to be preference-wise, and it is from person to person. It's also about how you feel. But I'm gonna show you, I'm actually gonna put it on and show you. My next test for buying a commercial pump is being able to kneel in the pump without hurting my ankles, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and put this shoe on for you. Bend over the shoe and kneel and sit comfortably. You don't put weight on it, but it's about how your Achilles tendon feels when you are in a kneeling position on the floor. A lot of heels choreography goes to the floor, right? And you want to be safe and you don't want to obstruct the muscles of your ankle, because if you are harming your Achilles tendon when you are doing floor work in your heel, when you stand up to keep dancing standing, you're going to be in a dangerous place, yeah? So you want to do your heel test, your kneeling heel test for your Achilles tendon. And then you're going to want to check all the other boxes that we talked about. So this is my favorite kind of pump to train in because it is open. Yeah, there's nothing across it, and it teaches me and my intrinsic muscles of the foot, the small intricate muscles of the foot, to work to stay in the shoe. Yeah, because this is probably the most challenging kind of shoe to perform in because there's nothing stopping you from pulling out of the shoe. Okay, I train in this kind of shoe so that I'm prepared for that kind of scenario, and it develops different muscles to keep you in the shoe. I also like to have a cage shoe, okay? So this pump takes care of a lot of the same things as this one. I can do the pull test. I can have no build on the bottom. The heel is coming straight down. And you know why I knew that was the case? Because they're the same brand. I found my size and the correct build in one shoe. And then I kept shopping the same brand, which was very helpful for me. What's great about this shoe is that it encases all the muscles and the top of the foot. So say it's very quick choreography and I'm not going to be able to focus on keeping my shoe on, a cage shoe is a really great option. There are also pumps that are like a sock on the front of the shoe. Those are wonderful because they're very flexible. If it is a combo that is all floor work, I recommend doing one of the pumps that has a sock-like sheath around the top of the shoe. So this one and this one in my dance bag for class, yeah? I then have a little booty. This little booty has a slightly shorter heel, and it is probably the most protective shoe because it is around my entire foot. Sometimes these little accents don't feel nice on the floor. This is a really great shoe to have as an option. A little boot. So I have a pump, a cage, and a booty, okay? Notice that they're all black, right? So now you're gonna have to think about when I'm dancing in these heels, I'm most likely gonna be wearing like black leggings or black cool like stretchy jeans or something fun like that, yeah? If you're gonna do, say, a photo shoot in a heel and you wanna show off like the leg line, you're gonna wanna have something that is flesh tone, okay? So a flesh tone shoe, most of the time, is for photos. I would say that you could wear a flesh tone shoe for class as well, but you're gonna wanna make sure that it takes care of all of your checklist, yeah? I pull apart, nothing's gonna happen. I don't have a build, that's great. I'm able to do the kneel test in it. This is really flexible, so that works really great for me if I need to go to the floor. And then the pump is coming straight down out of the back. Perfect. This is not the most secure just because this little strap is not gonna give me much, so I don't take class in these, but these are really great for photo shoots. Or if I'm very, 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 very secure in the choreography, I can wear them for that as well. Say you're asked to do heels choreography, but it's outside. What do you do then? If you're gonna be around on the street, this is not gonna be great on rocks, yeah? If there's like a random nail or something like that, it's not exactly safe, yeah? So if I'm asked to do heels work outside, I have this boot. Now you'll see if this boot, it has a build on the bottom. It's not a big build, but it is sturdy. I like to call them my combat heels because nothing's gonna happen to my feet if I step on something in these heels, yeah? So let's do our test. Pull test, check. Straight out the back, check. I can do my kneeling test in these just fine. This back is very flexible, so it's not gonna hurt my Achilles tendon. The build is not checked, but that's because it's my outdoor heel shoe. If I'm in a shoot and I have to be outside in a heel, this is my go-to. Let's talk about the bottom of the shoe. Most of your heels are going to come to you with this kind of texture on the bottom, okay? Super smooth, it can just slide across, nothing's gonna happen, yeah? It kind of looks like it has ridges, but these are not textured enough to make a difference when you're dancing. So it's important to have attention to detail when you're choosing the shoe, especially because of the different types of environments that we are asked to dance in heels. So this, if you recognize it, looks exactly like this, yeah? I owned this pair of shoes for about 2 years, and then I was asked to perform in them. And they bedazzled them and they painted them and they put rubber on the bottom. So if you get your shoes rubbered, that means, forgive me, they're a little dirty. That means that there is a texture, usually X's, that are put on the shoe. Can you hear that? When I pull it across, it has resistance. This shoe allows me to grip the floor. It's excellent for performing live in a non-controlled environment where other people are dancing in different kinds of shoes. On a slippery floor, that's the kind of texture. Having your shoes rubbered, which any cobbler can do, is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing on certain pairs. Because then you may be asked to dance on Marley, and being in rubbered shoes on Marley is not the best situation. So you're gonna wanna have this option as well, where you can glide across a rubberized surface. So because I knew that this shoe was my perfect training shoe, I found the same thing on Poshmark in the same size so that I could have two options. I have a rubbered version and I have a smooth version. Now, the same thing can be said for character shoes. We'll get to that in just a moment. We've talked about our pumps, our booty, our outdoor heel, our photo shoot heel, our cage. And now let's talk about different situations where you're given something that's hard to do in a heel. I get to a show and they ask me to perform in this kind of a heel. First of all, don't panic. Second of all, make sure that it's not the first time that you've ever put them on. I like to have this kind of shoes so that I can go over choreography that I'm extremely comfortable with in this kind of shoe once in a while. So I train in my stiletto, and then every so often I'll do the same exact choreography in a crazy high build 6-inch crazy shoe. Lots of shows use these shoes because they look really great. It's about the line of the leg, right? But if you've never put one on before, they can be very intimidating. It's all about weight placement, and you'll learn this in different heels classes. But if you can see when this shoe is on the ground, there's space here. So I'm not very connected to the floor. If I keep my weight forward, then my heel's not on the ground. This is already 6 inches high, so that's an extra 1.5 inches. You're gonna wanna make sure that you are comfortable being in the middle of the ball of your foot in these situations. Also, a really great heel to have in your arsenal is a boot, yeah? So you may be asked to do like a commercial shoot and they're like, yeah, we would love to see you in a heel that's also a boot, okay? So I don't quite have something that checks all the boxes in a boot yet, but this is a really great basic boot. You can see the heel is a little bit thicker. It's about the shape and the texture of the leather part of the boot, or the pleather part of the boot. You wanna make sure that it is flexible, because if you're putting it on your leg and your calves can't, are just sucked into them, you're not gonna be able to move very well, right? So you want something that's really flexible, and you want something that's going to stay up. So when you zip on the boot, you wanna make sure that it stays in place. This crazy shoe, okay? This is basically your Betty Boop pump, but in a boot. Same situation here. You're going to want to work on being forward in the shoe, but not all the way forward. You're gonna wanna make sure that the boot stays up when you put it on. So these go all the way up to the thigh because they're for a very specific shoot. If you're having trouble with the top of the boot staying on, you can use fashion tape, you can use a hair tie that's the same color as the texture of the boot, and you can also use fillers, okay? I have one more shoe to show you, and then we'll talk about tools to help your shoes stay on. You've done all this choreography in your heels, and then they give you a wedge sneaker. Love my little wedge sneaker. She's so great. But I have all this connection to the floor now that I didn't have before, yeah? So the difference you can see, the height is the same. You can feel where it starts and stops. It's all the way up here. You have to work every now and then to get used to doing your heels choreography in a sneaker. It is not necessarily any easier. I like to train in shoes that are similar to what I will perform in. But you know, sometimes your feet just can't take the hours and hours and hours of rehearsal. So for me, instead of putting on a flat sneaker, I like to use this as a backup and sometimes as an option for you to actually perform in. But you have to remember that the texture of the floor is very important because the bottom of the shoe is textured. Now let's talk about little things to help your heels feel better, fit better, and perform better. So I have this little arsenal here of fun items that I use to make my life easier. First of all, everyone knows what these are, right? They're little gel inserts for the ball of your foot. If your toes are sliding forward in your heels, you can buy these just at the drugstore. They're peel and stick, yeah? And they go right in the front of your shoe, inside where the ball of your foot would go. And I really like the rubberized ones because it helps me from slipping out of my shoe. If the shoes are new and you don't want the back of your heel to get crazy blisters in, these are fabulous because they're little pillows for your Achilles tendon. You peel off the back, the long side at the top, you bend it, and you would stick it right here in the top and make sure that it's low enough that when your foot is in it, no one can see it. So what that does is it spaces out the back of your ankle just ever so slightly from the edge of the leather, so it won't hurt as much. Does that make sense? Then, these little guys are the same thing as this, but they're smaller so that they can go in a smaller pump. So if I don't have a lot of surface area, I can pop this guy in there and it's not gonna stick out on the side. Then, if your heels get trashed because you were asked to dance in a crazy surface or you train in them a lot, these are little heel replacements. They're little pegs that are just like the bottom of your heel, usually built for specific shoes. But if you can see, you're able to pop this guy off with a pair of pliers or really strong tweezers. You can pull it off and then you can replace it if it is worn down or if it's no longer supportive. Then, my favorite thing is moleskin. Moleskin you can buy at any drugstore, and it's really great because you can cut it and you can stick it either to your skin or to your shoe. So say I got this really cool pair of pumps for this commercial shoot, but this part is hurting me. It's giving me a raw blister and I know I'm gonna be in them for 8 hours. I can take a piece of moleskin, I can cut it to the shape of the inside of the shoe that is bothering me, and I can stick it straight on the shoe. It's kind of like putting a really thick Band-Aid there so it stops the blister from occurring. And bonus, you can also take a piece of this and stick it to your actual skin and it will stay there even if you sweat. So I love, love, love moleskin, and it's really inexpensive. I love to have it in my dance bag. Where are my ballerinas? All of these are from my point shoe days, and I like to use them when my shoes don't fit right. So this is a toe spacer. I use that in between my big toe and my second toe, like this, especially if my toes are crammed. and I'm like rubbing a knuckle on another knuckle, I'll use a spacer here. If my shoe is hurting one of my knuckles of one of my little toes because you're crammed into a pointed toe shoe, our feet aren't shaped that way. This is a really great one. It's bun heads. It's like, it's a sheath for your toe. You can just squeeze it onto your toe and then it protects you from getting blisters. It also protects you from overlapping your toes. Then these little guys from Point Shoes, bun heads, are really small spacers. Yeah, this is what they're shaped like here. And they're awesome because it doesn't take up a lot of space in your shoe, but it gives you a little bit of breath between the small toes. So I have a lot of different types of those, and they're super fantastic items. Very important to have in your dance bag and at home if you're trying a new pair of shoes. I like to bring them to set as well because you don't know if wardrobe is going to be prepared with those items. It's better to have what you need and what you want to be comfortable so that you can focus on your dancing. You can focus on the product and the performance rather than the pain that you're in. Love what we do, but it's not easy. So you want to make it easier on yourself by making sure that you're prepared. Now, since we've talked about all of the pumps, right? Let's talk about other commercial dance shoes, character shoes, and Latin ballroom shoes. We all know and love our LaDuca shoes. I recommend having a black option and a tan option when you can afford it, or over time you acquire a tan option and a black option because the leg line does not want to be interrupted. So if I'm wearing leggings that are a color, or if they are black, I'm gonna definitely wear my black option. It doesn't have to be a boot. I love the boot. The boot is fantastic and very supportive. But similar to my photo shoot heel, I'm gonna wanna have a tan option for when I'm wearing a skirt, if I'm wearing like little tap shorts, or if I'm wearing something that is more flesh tone or cut off, maybe, say I'm wearing like capris or something like that. This is gonna make me look short. It's gonna make my legs look stunted. I'm gonna wanna have my tan option. So these are my recommendations. One of each is fantastic. Also, the different styles of LaDucas are completely up to you. I enjoy a closed toe option, especially if you're doing partnering, because you never know if your partner is going to step on you. Not that it's their fault or anything, it could be your fault, but you want to protect your toes. Very important. LaDucas, fabulous. Let's talk about the bottoms of LaDucas. It naturally comes to you. A textured suede, you can get them rubbered. I recommend, if you're gonna have two pairs or a third pair, to have one pair rubbered for the same reasons that you're gonna wanna have a pair rubbered in your commercial heels. The natural suede texture is really smooth and fabulous. However, when you're dancing in them, it gets matted together. So this natural suede texture can become really slippery because all of the fibers are stuck together. Dancing in studios where people are sweating, there's dirt on the floor, maybe you came in after a street class, you know, lots of different things. I mean, there's probably coffee on this one, who knows? But my natural suede texture is no longer. Now, how do you fix that? The world of ballroom has this really great gadget called a shoe brush, and it looks like a bunch of sharp bristles, kind of scraping sensation, but it's a nice little rectangle, and you can brush your shoe. This shoe used to look like this. You brush your shoe in all different directions, mindful not to get this part at all on the edge, but if you brush your shoe, you'll have your natural texture back. When you're in New York, two types of rubber. One is large X rubber, and one is small little bitty X rubber. If you want to be able to turn well in your rubbered shoes, you're going to want to get small X rubbers on your shoes instead of the large ones, yeah? Small versus wide, because the surface area, you're gonna stick more with the wide. But if you're running around like a crazy person and you're not doing a lot of pirouettes, the wide rubber is gonna be just fine. So, for your character shoe, you wanna have a tan option, a black option, and bonus, it would be great to have a rubbered option. When you get a LaDuca shoe, it's gonna be flexible, yeah? It's gonna be able to point. This is what the LaDuca sign looks like. Let's see if I can get this out here. Beautiful, right? You're able to point in this shoe. A Latin shoe is extremely flexible, like crazy town flexible. I can bend the whole shoe in half right when you buy it, yeah? Brand new shoes, same exact deal. They can bend all the way in half. The reason is because you need to be able to point your foot right away in this kind of shoe, and it's more important for you to be able to feel the floor. So typically, Latin shoes are more thin than LaDuca shoes, okay? They're a little less structured, especially because you can tell with all these straps. With all of the straps, you're gonna have a little less control in these shoes, but the caging does help keep your foot in. Now, when you're purchasing Latin shoes, when you have the shoe on, if your toes are right at the edge, that is the perfect fit. When you point your foot, if your toes come slightly out of the shoe and touch the ground when you point, that is the right fit. If you're sliding and disappearing into your shoe when you point your toe, that's not the right fit for a Latin shoe. For Latin shoes, again, you're gonna wanna have options. The shoe that I'm gonna wear for social dancing might not be the shoe that I wear to a Latin audition or a theater call that is a Latin dancing based, yeah? Something like In the Heights, all the different options that are out there that are using this style of dancing. It's great if you can show up in a legit ballroom shoe, but no one's gonna fault you for showing up in a musical theater shoe. Don't panic if you don't own them, it's fine. It's a smarter decision to show up in a LaDuca than to show up in a commercial shoe that looks like a Latin shoe. This looks like a Latin shoe, but it cannot dance like a Latin shoe. It doesn't have all of the needs, yeah? I can't point my foot in it. It's not sturdy. For a photo shoot, yeah, this could pass for a Latin shoe, but it's not gonna serve me for actually dancing. Remember, you have to think about your safety, you have to think about support, and you also have to think about longevity. Just because they look fierce doesn't mean that you should be wearing them for a shoot or for class, things like that. Now, sometimes we don't have a choice, and that's fine. You can make it through. You're really smart and strong and versatile, and your training will support you, but having backups of your own to bring to a shoot day are always a great idea. Talking about Latin shoes, there's usually a lot more straps. We usually wear them less often, so they're less broken in. And the heel type is a little bit different. So if you take a look at the heel of a LaDuca and a heel of the same height in a ballroom shoe, do you see how both are flared? Great. A pump is not flared whatsoever. A LaDuca has a very wide platform for the flared heel. Yeah? Looking at the difference between these two heels, this one is gonna be more supportive. I would venture to say that you could travel more in these shoes, but these are the ones that are going to have a more silhouetted line, appropriate for your Latin style dancing and Latin style shows. The bottoms of Latin shoes are suede, just like the LaDuca. Now, this suede, you can see, is a lot more loose. It's less compact. This kind of suede is fabulous because it's very smooth on the floor. You can pirouette for days and still feel connected to the floor in a suede bottom shoe. I can brush these shoes with a ballroom shoe brush and get them back to life so that they look like brand new suede shoes. So for ballroom land, I like to have a tan shoe for the line of the leg. So again, here are our tan heel options: Latin, LaDuca, Stiletto. Check. Then you have your black tone options: Latin, LaDuca, Stiletto. I also have fun shoes, yeah, because why not? One more thing for Latin shoes in particular are these little shoe caps that sometimes come with your shoes. It's really great if they come with your shoes because heels are not always the same size. These are little shoe caps for your heels, okay? A lot of professional ballroom dancers use these because they protect your shoe. It's wonderful to have these because you're not gonna damage the rubber, yeah? So they just pop on there. They do give you a wider surface area, so be mindful of that if you're going to try to put these on. In the TV and film industry, on set, and you're dancing, but there's also dialogue going on, they might ask to put cushion caps on your shoes. So that means they put a little tiny cap, similar to the ballroom cap, but much smaller, on the back of your stiletto. Now, sometimes that can change the way your shoes feel, so be mindful if someone comes around from wardrobe and they put a heel cap on your shoe, or they tape foam so you can see the residue, or if they tape foam to the bottom of your shoe, give yourself a rehearsal or two while they're holding so that you can understand how it feels different now. You're gonna have a different texture, you're gonna have a different connection to the floor, and you're also gonna have a different weight placement because it may seem small, but it can be a big difference, especially if you're on a floor that is not a dance floor. Oh, one more piece of advice. If you're on set for really long days and you're wearing a pair of heels that maybe are brand new to you, or are super tall, or are challenging in a different way, I like to have little foldable flats. If I have an outfit with pockets, if I have like a little purse, or if I have a little place on set that I can tuck away a little pair of flats, I can save myself during breaks, and I can take my heels off and put on these tiny little foldable flats. Recommendations: always carry your shoes in a shoe bag. It will extend the life of your shoes, and it will also stop your dance bag from smelling like shoes. These are for larger shoes like boots and things like that. Smaller ones, it's really great if they're washable because that will save you as well. Inside of LaDucas, I highly recommend wearing knee highs or some sort of nylon, because the inside of a LaDuca shoe is also leather. So that's a natural texture, right? When you sweat inside of it, it's going to mold to your foot, which is not a bad thing. However, if you continue to sweat in the same pair of shoes that's already been broken in, you're going to harm the inside of the shoe. These little knee highs are like 99 cents. I always keep a pair in my bag, whatever floats your boat. Also, if you're breaking in a brand new pair of shoes and you're at home, try putting on a thin pair of socks. It'll protect your skin, and it will also be very beneficial for opening up the shoe. Kind of the same way as point shoes, it's important to break your heels in before taking them on the road, yeah? Because you want to stay comfortable so you can focus on choreography and dancing and weight placement and all of the challenging aspects of dancing in heels. You want to also support your body because that is your tool. One last little tour of all of my shoes. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. It's been such a treat chatting with you. I love dancing in heels in theater and the commercial world. Dancing in heels is very common. It's great that we can share information and how to be best prepared. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Commercial Dance Intensive for the Heels Information Seminar. Have fun, keep dancing, and let's get ready to work.